In a filing in federal court this week, the Justice Department said that when the administration was ordered back in March to stop sending detained migrants to a mega prison in El Salvador, you personally made the final call to continue the flights anyway. Is that correct? Do you acknowledge that?
You know, we have court filings going on and decisions that are going forward. I'll let them continue to play through that process.
But did you make that
I'm
call?
proud of President Trump and his leadership and the decisions that we have made. And the decisions that are made on deportations, where flights go and when they go, are my decision at the Department of Homeland Security. And we will continue to do the right thing and ensure that dangerous criminals are removed.
So that you're saying that it was your decision. It sounds like the judge wanted to ensure that people were given due process. He said very clearly, quote, any plane containing these folks that is going to take off or is in the air needs to be returned to the United States. But those people need to be returned to the United States. However that's accomplished, I leave to you. But this is something that you need to make sure is complied with immediately. Did you defy the court's order, Madam Secretary?
No, Kristen, and that's one of the things that we continue to face across this country is activist judges who are using radical decisions that have no standing and no grounds to try to stop what President Trump is doing to protect America and to keep us safe.
Just so that we're clear here, Kristi Noem admits on national television that the decision to allow the planes carrying wrongly deported migrants to leave U.S. airspace was hers and her department's. And despite the fact that the decision was in direct violation of a court order handed down by Judge Boasberg, she's decided that in fact she didn't defy the court because that judge was an activist judge, and so his ruling somehow doesn't count. In other words, there is a new precedent here wherein if the Trump administration wins in court, then the ruling is valid. And if the Trump administration loses in court, then the ruling is invalid and the judge is an activist judge and it's their duty to defy it to retain the sanctity of the court system against these rogue judges. Heads I win, tails you lose. The problem is, this is a completely made-up precedent and does not negate the fact that she just admitted on national TV that she and her department are responsible for ignoring judges' rulings, and it opens herself up to legal exposure as the direct result of that. For example, barring a Trump pardon at the end of his term, a subsequent DOJ could bring criminal charges against Kristi Noem for her decision to defy the courts and continue illegally deporting migrants to foreign countries. And in fact, in this instance, you don't even need to wait for a subsequent administration, considering the judge himself is already taking action. Here's Mark Elias explaining that point here. Okay, so talk to me about what kind of legal exposure she shoulders, in the aftermath of this administration. Let's say that the Trump administration leaves office, a Democratic administration comes into office, and now they're looking at Kristi Noem. What can happen here?
Look, you don't have to go that far. I mean, the fact is that the judge is already begun investigating, potential contempt, right? The reason why we know about this is because the judge has been digging and digging, or trying to dig and find out why this happened. And ultimately they pointed to Kristi Noem. And judges have the ability to impose contempt. There's civil contempt and there's criminal contempt. And judges have the ability to travel one road or the other. Now, criminal contempt requires prosecution, right? Requires the Department of Justice to prosecute it. Although, as I've written before with Democracy Docket and I've talked about before publicly, there is precedent to allow judges to appoint private lawyers as prosecutors if the Department of Justice refuses to prosecute criminal contempt. It's not often used, it's not often required, but I believe that it is inherent in the power of the judiciary to vindicate its own orders. So Kristi Noem may not have to worry about waiting till the next Democratic administration. She may be in real trouble with this judge. But to your point, certainly there would be the ability of a new administration to pick up a criminal contempt citation and prosecute it in the future. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things right now for this administration that they are assuming, they are counting on one of two things. Either Donald Trump is going to pardon them all at the back end, or that the next administration is either friendly to them or, is sort of the Merrick Garland variety that does not want to pursue predecessor acts. But boy, I got to tell you, if we have a Democratic president we need a Democratic Attorney General in the next administration that is going to unpack what happened in this administration. Obviously, the president has immunity, but people below him do not. And we're going to need some type of real process of sort of truth and reconciliation, and likely criminal prosecutions, because we're only, not even a year into this administration, and we are watching a lawlessness, both in how the law is not being followed, judges' orders are not being followed, but also, Brian, look, and you've reported on this on your YouTube channel almost more than anyone else. So I hope everyone takes this chance right now to subscribe to Brian's channel and also click on the bell to get alerted when there's new content about just the graft and corruption. I mean, we're going to need a Department of Justice that just unpacks that, who got rich here, again, other than perhaps Donald Trump himself, who has immunity.
In fact, I go over the legal implications of Kristi Noem defying the court in our newest episode of Democracy Watch coming out today. So if you've not yet subscribed to this channel, please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. As always, my content is 100% free, and it's a great way to support my work. Again, that subscribe button is right here on the screen. Now, of course, Donald Trump always preserves the ability to simply pardon his corrupt officials like Kristi Noem, giving them a sense of invincibility to commit criminal acts with impunity. But here's where I would offer some free advice to Kristi Noem. Being a member of Donald Trump's cabinet or inner circle is not historically a guarantee of protection. In fact, being a member of Trump's cabinet or inner circle is historically a front row seat to the undercarriage of a bus. Think about all of the people who were close to Donald Trump who have been castigated and duly discarded by him. He did it with Ronna McDaniel, the former head of the RNC, who he used as a scapegoat to Republican election losses. He did it with Michael Cohen, his longtime lawyer and fixer. Did it with Gordon Sondland, his longtime donor and EU ambassador, to his former Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, who he called dumb as a rock, and his other Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who had his security clearance revoked. His former press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, who he trashed online. His former donor and campaign advisor, George Papadopoulos, who he denied really even knowing. His former director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, who he chose to run the agency in his first term, but then forced out to make way for Kash Patel. To his own vice president, who he was perfectly fine seeing hanged after Pence refused to certify an election that Donald Trump lost. To Elon Musk, who literally funded his 2024 campaign. And most recently, to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who dedicated the last decade of her life to him. Donald Trump will discard you the moment you lose your usefulness to him. And frankly, the only thing more embarrassing than all of these people being cast aside by Donald Trump is that anyone would still stick with this guy thinking that somehow it will never happen to them, that somehow they're special, and he would never abandon them like he's done literally everyone else. Somehow they're different. And of course, the broader point is that if Donald Trump has so little loyalty that he can discard all of those people who literally worked for him, who helped him win the election, who sacrificed their lives and reputations and oftentimes their livelihoods for him, people who had genuine value to him, if he can discard those people, do you really think that he cares about regular Americans? About a single mom working 2 jobs to take care of her kids? About a child with cancer who relies on the Children's Health Insurance Program to survive? About seniors who need Medicaid for their health care? About a family of 4 in rural Iowa who rely on food stamps to eat? If Trump will publicly destroy his most loyal, vocal supporters, then he is not falling over himself to help anyone who is not named Donald Trump. He may frame himself as this populist champion, but he's a champion for only one person, and that's the person he sees in the mirror. So I understand that Kristi Noem feels invincible now, but despite his best efforts, Donald Trump is not the king of this country and will not be in power forever. And once he's out of office, all of the people who have decided that they are above the law will be in for a rude awakening once the rule of law is finally restored in the United States of America. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.